session has to do with right to repair, something that's very near and dear to my heart. Not to pick on IBM, but they're a good example because back in 1956, the U.S. Justice Department and IBM reached an agreement that required IBM to supply parts. Because of that, my company, the Marion Company, in 1975, we had a little kertuffle, if you will, with IBM. And because that consent decree was in place that required IBM to sell parts, IBM, agreed to continue to sell us parts, which kept our company in business. In 1996, unfortunately, the consent decree went away, and there are no laws in place right now that require manufacturers to supply parts. And if you can't fix it, you can't put it back into productive use. So that's what this session is all about. We have three of the industry leaders in that sector. So guys, take it away. Kyle, let me start with you, I guess.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, it has been a absolute gangbuster year for us. There has just been a huge amount of progress. So I'm going to run you through sort of an overview of the coalition and some of the progress happening in right to repair around the world. And then I'm going to bring you into the latest on legislation. And specifically, I think we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about Minnesota. But I'll give you the global perspective first. Okay. So here's my contact if you want to chase me down. Repair.org, the Repair Association, is the group that is doing the fighting on the ground on this. ASCDI has been a huge supporter, both in effort and in funding over the years, and has really helped us get where we're at. We are very appreciative. Here's the board of Repair.org, so you know who's in the fight on a day-to-day basis. When we go to politicians, we go to folks working on policy. This is our pitch. We said, look, we need to switch from a linear extractive economy to a circular economy. We need to switch from where we are simply digging things out of the ground, making stuff out of it, using it for a little while. And we need to focus more on these loops. And the closer that the loop is to the user, the more economic value is generated. If you pay Cisco to go and dig copper out of the ground and make a server in China and ship it to you, you're not generating any local jobs. But lots of folks in the reuse remanufacturing ITAD space are. I am preaching to the choir here. All of you know this. I just wanted to share that's the kind of messaging we share with politicians, and that works across party lines. Over the last few years, we've been able to get federal support on this. The Biden administration has been very pro-competition, which has been fantastic. The Federal Trade Commission has also weighed in favor of right to repair. They did an extensive report on right to repair and found that manufacturer arguments, the manufacturer excuses for blocking repair are unwarranted and unjustified, which has really kind of opened the floodgates for us with state-level legislation. We also have quite a bit of momentum around the world with legislation all over the place. So Canada has a right to repair bill that is moving that has to do with fixing copyright law. That's on, I think, its third reading in the Canadian Parliament. Chile is working on something. India has launched a right to repair portal where they're saying they're going to be getting service manuals from manufacturers and sharing it. And then we've seen a huge amount of movement in Europe. Specifically, France has rolled out a repairability scoring label for consumer products where it says next to the price tag how fixable it is, and that includes things like access to firmware updates and parts over the long run. That is starting to lead companies to make change. So in response to a shareholder action that we initiated against Microsoft, normally they fight these shareholder actions that are brought by environmental groups. In this case, they actually agreed. They said, sure, we'll do what you want in your shareholder initiative. And so they have been working on redesigning their products to make them easier to repair. And then they commissioned this group, this is an independent consulting group, to do a greenhouse gas analysis of surfaces, specifically a surface that was designed to be fixed in the field. And they had a surface that was only designed to be serviced in remanufacturing by sending it back to a factory, repairing it in China. And this is the CO2, just looking at the carbon reduction in the product. So clearly we have the physics on our side. We've got the environment on our side. And it's cool to see Microsoft going from products that were glued in batteries, totally impossible to fix a surface, to the new ones are quite good. So let's talk policy and legislation. This is a map of the U.S. The red states are states where we had a bill in process this year. The line states are states that have introduced something in the past but didn't do it this year. But like in Idaho, I just saw a right to repair op-ed pop up in Idaho today. So I imagine we'll have a bill there next year. The green states are states where we've made some progress, and that's where I'm going to focus and talk about what we have done. We've been working with US PIRG, a nonprofit who's really good at getting local pieces like this placed all over the place. So they did a national study, and then they sliced and diced it into state level data, and then they get state level news. So this is a California news station saying, hey, it would save your family $330 a year. That's a big deal to people. So the first bill that we passed recently, it was last year in Colorado. We passed an electric wheelchair right to repair bill. Very, very narrow. Obviously, we want right to repair in a broader perspective, but this set the stage for broader movement. And it overwhelmingly passed, and that was really great. That set the stage for New York at the end of last year. New York passed in the House and the Senate in June, and then was signed by the governor in December. Unfortunately, between when the bill was passed, the legislature and the governor, it got messed with, and specifically it got messed with and screwed all of you. So it exempted the enterprise electronics industry. IBM has a strong presence in New York, and they lobbied the governor at the last minute to exempt products that were not sold at retail as the exclusion, which is very frustrating. We fought tooth and nail, and finally it came down to either we were going to have the bill vetoed altogether, or we had to accept the exemption of enterprise IT equipment. We were not happy with that, and we've been working ever since then to fix it. So here's we had good progress in New York, covers consumer electronics. A couple of challenges with the New York bill. This is kind of an overview of the bill. I can share these slides after. This is the list of exemptions in the New York bill. You can see it excludes medical equipment and police radios and some other things. The New York bill is enforced by the Attorney General. So fortunately in New York, Letitia James is a pretty strong Attorney General, and we think that she will be aggressive at enforcing this. But of course, doesn't cover enterprise equipment. Let me move on to Minnesota. We have been working, all our coalition in Minnesota and these guys on this call have been working for many, many years to try to get this done in Minnesota. It was one of our absolute top states we wanted to get this done in. And we knew we needed to include enterprise IT from the outset. So we have been lobbying and working on this for a long time. The bill has been included in the Omnibus Commerce Bill. This is some of our coalition members. Amanda LaGrange runs Repowered, which is a refurbisher in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And so this is, I took this photo, I kid you not, 10 minutes ago. This is live on the House floor right now. They are debating this bill. So we have been included in the Omnibus Must Pass Commerce Bill, both the House and the Senate. We have passed multiple times in both the House and the Senate. It's gone to reconciliation. And this is literally the final vote. It passed the Senate last night, and it is in the House right now. This is a Republican saying that if right to repair passes, China will clone all of our products and the economy will collapse. He will lose. The Democrats are in power, and they're going to pass this any minute now if they haven't already. Well, I've been talking to you. Once the Senate passes it, the governor has 3 days to sign or veto it. The governor is not going to veto the Omnibus Commerce package. So Minnesota is basically a done deal. Here are the details. So it exempts game consoles, which is a bummer to me, medical devices, energy storage, exempts tractors. We wanted to include tractors. We didn't get it there. We did get a tractor right to repair bill passed in Colorado earlier this year, though. And it also has an annoying exemption around critical infrastructure technology that I will leave to Corey and Neil to talk about. Also very critical is in Minnesota, rather than just being enforced by the Attorney General, it can also be enforced by what is the lawyers call right of private action. That basically means that if there's a problem, your company can sue the manufacturer directly. That is a provision that we have not been able to get into a right to repair statute anywhere else. It's absolutely a game changer in Minnesota, and it should make it much easier to hold these companies to account. So with that, that's kind of my rough overview. We are winning. We got wheelchairs, and then we got consumer electronics, then we got farm equipment, and now this one hopefully includes much more. Oh, by the way, it includes appliances, so it covers your refrigerator at home. So We're feeling very, very good. We'll have more news soon, but it's really within striking distance. It's basically a done deal that this thing is going to get signed by the governor.
Oh, that was great. Guys, go ahead, jump in. Neil, I see you're itching to say something. I know that look for a lot of years.
Yeah. Well, Corey and I think can tag team on this since, just as some, background, why are we focusing on one state? Well, Kyle showed the map, the way this is working. It's a state by state project. And so, anyone on this call on this, in disposition, I urge you to, find a way to get involved in your own state because it affects your business in the state that you're located. And, repair.org can certainly use the support. It's a worthy effort. But just to give some, perspective, I think when Corey and, Jennifer Larson of Vibrant, been very active in this over the years as well. When we started working on this, I had hair and, I didn't have a shiny forehead, anyway. I counted 9 years. It might have been longer.
It's been that long, absolutely.
And every year we make a little bit of progress. It's like the Greek myth of Sisyphus that keeps rolling the rock up the hill, and then, the rock rolls down, and Sisyphus has to start all over again. Sometimes it feels like the rock has rolled over us, and we don't just have to chase it down to the bottom of the hill. So this year, for the first time, it looks like we're actually going to get a bill passed in Minnesota. Kyle went through the exclusions. However, it seems like, as what happened in New York, the manufacturers and their lobbyists always seem to get last look. Last look is a well-known concept in our industry, and if you get last look, it's great. Well, they came in and got last look in New York, and it appears like they've done it in Minnesota again because we had a great bill going. There was everything that, Kyle, Corey, Jennifer, and I wanted. And then all of a sudden, there's language in there that exempts repair as related to cybersecurity. And okay, one could say that's reasonable, maybe. But then if you look at the definition of cybersecurity that's included in the bill, it means the practice of protecting networks, devices, and data from unauthorized access or criminal use, and the practice of ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. Very broad. And, it's my view that, unfortunately, I think this creates a huge loophole for, the manufacturers if we want to, compel them to, provide diagnostics tools, et cetera. And, Kyle brought up, there in the legislation, the Attorney General can act on it. But if I've got, an item that needs to be repaired right now, I don't have time to get the Attorney General to file a lawsuit, against the manufacturer. I certainly don't want to do that myself as World Data Products and take on that legal, the distraction, the financial aspect of it, et cetera. So it looks like we're going to have a bill. I don't know if it's going to be a good thing for us or not. Certainly from a PR perspective, passing a bill is great, but I don't think it has any teeth because of these exceptions with cybersecurity and also the critical infrastructure. That'll, reveal itself in time, I guess. So we were feeling great about, a couple of weeks ago with this great win we were about to declare, and then the rug got pulled out from under us. And, it's like watching, the old analogy of, legislation is like watching, sausage being made. Well, I think it's even worse. And, I don't want to feel like come off like I'm so too disillusioned or disappointed, but I certainly am. It's been a worthy effort. It's 9 years worth, but, at some point we have to show some victories here. And Minnesota it's really a mixed bag. So yeah. I'll pass it on to Corey.
Yeah, and I concur with a lot of what you just said, Neil. I mean, it feels like this huge victory with the heaviest asterisk that you could imagine on the end of it, right? And I'm excited for the repair.org organization and the movement as a whole. I mean, I think it is a huge win, but you think back to Kyle flying in 2013 and 2014 and introducing this approach to Jennifer and myself and you and the local early participants. And there's so much hope and opportunity. It just seems to make so much sense to do this, right? And we've worked so hard over the years to be at the one, I'd say the 1 yard line, but it's more like the 1 inch line and have that, that language, which is so ambiguous. I agree. It feels like a 50-foot loophole, Neil. And it feels like a poison pill at the last minute that allows them to step through. And exempt all kinds of things at the enterprise level. And I know Kyle will talk more about, how that may not be the case, how the PR angle is there. And I'm choosing, after a kind of a week of depression since we found out about this, to look at this through that opportunity. Because to me, right to repair is about sense and sustainability, not the Jane Austen novel, but the sense side of it just makes sense, right? Independent repair, farmers being able to repair their own tractors. We know all of that, right? And we think our people want to be independent. We should reuse things. Companies are trying to extend the life and ESG. But the sustainability piece is really big. And Kyle, I recently heard you say that we're producing 1.5 billion smartphones a year, right? So that's like pulling a mountain out of the earth. But I feel like if you look at the big picture, it's really about pulling a mountain range out of the earth every year, because those small electronics, your laptops, your phones, your Wi-Fi routers, and so on, they're less than 10% of the total picture. And without the data center, without big IT, big tech, you don't have a sustainability play. You're not, you're making a dent, but you're not truly reducing e-waste. So I think this fight continues, whether it's through PR, and I do believe we're getting the public on our side with these issues, or further legislation in your states, continuing in our state. We can't stop here.
Many years ago, not many years ago, several years ago, ASCDI spent a lot of time and effort, fighting for the right to repair at the federal level, and we didn't get very far. And the right to repair folks picked it up on the state level. I sense that there maybe is a crack in the federal door now because of the some of the things the president has said, some of the environmental laws in Europe, the data product passport, electronic passport. I think that there might be an opening on the federal level in the U.S. and the corresponding EC level. Carl, what's your thoughts on the feds?
At the federal level, there is an opportunity. It's going to need to be a bipartisan effort if we want to get something through the House. It's possible, and all the momentum that we have continues to build. A good example, a way that the manufacturers watered down the New York law, they said they made it so the New York law only impacts products that go into sale after July 1st, 2023. So anything that you own right now will not be covered by the New York law unless they continue selling it after July 1st. By contrast, this Minnesota bill is retroactive back to 2021. Not as far back as I would like, but a hell of a lot better. That covers actually products that you own. So every time we do this, it's like a ratcheting effect. We're ratcheting things up. Once the final bill passes, we'll see what this exact cybersecurity exemption is. But we've made a huge amount of progress by claiming. I think we almost can be a little bit bold and claim a little bit more than we think. So if we think that there's a big loophole, let's act and frame it as if the loophole is smaller than we think it is. I've been framing it as, look, the bill might exempt tools that the NSA uses. It might exempt military equipment. That's fine. That's extreme cybersecurity stuff. But if a school is buying a router, that's not a cybersecurity product. And we should make sure that equipment that our schools and hospitals are using day to day is covered. I would interpret it as it is covered.
And Kyle, I think particularly when the manufacturers and the OEMs are trying to exempt, say, firmware or tools that they provide currently to their resellers and their customers, we really have a great case to make if they're making that easily publicly available. I think we have a fight on our hands. The two places as a business owner you don't want to end up are in losing money and in court, right? Like I don't want to spend all my time in court, but we're still ready to fight. Yep. And looking for guidance there, and certainly file information where parts are not being released to us.
And the exemption cannot cover when they say it exempts products that are used in cybersecurity applications. Like my smartphone is used by the NSA, right? So it can't possibly exempt all products. A Cisco router is used by schools. It's also used by the NSA. That doesn't mean it's exempted.
Yeah, that's the argument.
A lot of these.
We're going to have that argument, though, to fight back in that way. And I think, we'll see what the final language is. I think we pretty much know what it is, but we need to figure out a way to, from day one, just to be on the offensive here, I think, and framing it. I like what you said, Kyle. If we frame, whoever, it's a first mover thing, right? If we define what cybersecurity means in this bill from a practical standpoint, I think we want to be on the front foot, not the back foot. then, what Joe mentioned, federal, this is coming full circle. We started off at the federal level. I think repair.org did. And remember the Yoda bill, You Own Device Act, right? With, anyway, Farenthold, representative, right? Farenthold. I mean, I had a lot more hair back then. But anyway, it's coming full circle. And then there's other entities coming in. And we just need to make sure we're all coordinated. This free ICT Europe, which, might be covered more in the next disposition session for Europe. But they now have a free ICT USA initiative, and they're, focused on federal action. Talking to Representative Issa, which, is someone we've all met with, I think, in, past initiatives. So I think it's imperative that we coordinate, so that we're, just creating a unified front, not wasting resources, and continuing the state by state activity too. Because, as we've known from federal, you make progress, then you're shut down, and then you're totally out of it. There's no more remedy. And I think, as we get more and more state legislation passed, we can take best elements out of all of them and see, because one of the things, as, Corey knows certainly, and Kyle, when we've been testifying at the legislature, one of the questions we always got asked from state senator, state representative was, has anybody else done this yet? So that's another thing where I think is a really, even though, the Minnesota bill will have some shortcomings, yes, Minnesota has done it. It's B2B IT equipment. It's consumer electronics. There is a bill that covers this. So I think it's a great precedent for other states so that that question can be answered in the affirmative.
It's funny, it's kind of ironic that they use cybersecurity as the reason to try to decimate the bill, when a lot of their software, the microcode updates throughout the life cycle of a product are security related. And if I'm going to take that used product and put it back into productive use, I want to have the most updated microcode on there to protect the security of the next user. So you would think they would want to give that to you if they really care that much about cybersecurity.
So I would just, to zoom out a little bit, I think in the big picture, it's important for all of us as players when we have the opportunities to engage with the public online. That's really important that we don't mince our words. I do believe that we're coming into an era, as Todd spoke about and the previous presenters around ESG. These mandates are coming from corporations, from government entities, where that environmental sustainability, including reuse, downstream, upstream, are becoming really important seen. Their importance has just grown to the point where I think some of these policies are going to be seen as corporate malfeasance. If we can make the reduction of IT reuse and the materials that the OEMs push against it into something like sweatshops for shoe manufacturers, I think they could be seen as being very poor, bad corporate actors by the general public, and we'll step away from really pressing this hard, and that can be to our advantage with the PR, outreach that Kyle and our team is going to do. So let's keep pushing.
Yeah.
Hey, Carl, where do we go next?
What state do we do next?
Yeah.
So the state legislative calendar is skewed toward the beginning of the year. So most states are wrapping up their legislative sessions, which means we've either won or lost in most states. However, Massachusetts is still on deck this year. California is still active. So those are the states. Missouri is still moving. Pennsylvania maybe. So there's a handful of states that are still sort of in play. And then next January, we get to start all over and all the states all over again. And so we'll be looking at Colorado and other places where we have had success in the past to continue the ratcheting effect.
And you've done a lot. I mean, a lot of regulatory repair has done a lot of the heavy lifting already. If next year I want to get involved in Florida, I mean, can you give me a boilerplate that I can bring to my legislature?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's reference legislation on repair.org. We're going to be updating it for next year. But yes, and like we have legislators that we can put you in contact with. The best way is, your local rep, your local state senator or representative, like invite them to your office, have them over for lunch sometime, and just show them around and show them what you do. And then you can mention it, and then they can pass the reference text to their legislative aides. But it's pretty darn easy. Like the legislators are there to respond to business people. They want to help their district. They want to help you out. So that's how we've gotten to 28 states. And it was many of those states had multiple bills. So we could have had 100 bills so far this year. It's people like you getting engaged.
Thank you for that. Guys, we have about 2 more minutes for this session. Anything you want to add before we close it out?
I would just say, you know, I was pretty negative a week or so ago. It's just don't give up, you know, never give up. You got to put your Winston Churchill hat on and just, you know, keep powering through because, you know, I think at the end of the day, this is a step forward. You know, I'm talking about Minnesota. Certainly, we're making great, you know, inroads across the country. But, you know, we just need to keep fighting, keep moving the ball forward because, you know, it's one step at a time. And you got to just focus on it that way, I think.
And to our national group, thank you so much for all the support, helping us organize here in Minnesota. I think it was really was a great step. But don't forget about enterprise. You know, it is a
We're not.
giant portion. And,
We're not.
you know, we will continue to support and have supported this for years. And, you know, please keep us in mind as throughout the process. Let's keep pushing for it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
On a positive note, you know, when we went to the federal government years ago, you know, nobody even knew what right to repair meant. You know, they said, "What are you talking about?" So we've overcome that hurdle. People know what we're talking about now. It's just a matter of the brand holders kind of getting in our way.
Well, Microsoft has redesigned their product line around this. You can see it at retail stores right now. It's real. I've got lots of other companies. We just announced a partnership today with Logitech is partnering with iFixit to start to bring parts to the world. So this is moving. Lots more companies getting on board. Cisco and IBM aren't going to be able to stop us forever.
Guys, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your efforts on behalf of the industry. Thank you for your time. And you guys have put a lot of man hours into this, and we thank you for it.
Thank you, Joe.
Welcome.
Thanks,
guys. Take care.
The next session, we'll talk about merger and acquisitions. What's your business worth? Stay tuned. That's going to be in 2 minutes, 120 seconds. Go get some coffee, go to the bathroom. See you in 2 minutes, guys.
So